Well, let's talk a bit more, shall we, about Ukraine's possible EU membership. We're joined now by Philip Ingram, the former British military intelligence colonel and NATO planner, to give us his analysis on the latest in Ukraine. So, should we start off by talking about that bid for EU membership? Here's a map of. You can see the EU there, Ukraine all the way there over in the east. It feels almost as if the war has pushed it to look a bit more westwards. It
is. It's significant from a strategic perspective because we were hearing rumblings from Scholz of Germany and Macron of France in not necessarily supporting the military actions and what was going on inside Ukraine and potentially suggesting solutions where Ukraine would have to trade some territory. That has been put to bed now completely. And therefore, from a strategic perspective, Vladimir Putin knows that Europe is completely behind Ukraine, and that will be worrying him. From an operational perspective, getting into the ground, that will help embolden the Ukrainian military, the Ukrainian politicians and their staff. And then from a tactical perspective, it's not really going to affect things on the short term, but it does give that extra bit of emboldenment to the troops that are fighting hard. And you can't underestimate how important it is to get that psychology behind what it is that they're doing, and therefore it'll help them fight even harder.
That's interesting, particularly at a time when it feels like so many of those troops are really having to dig in as the battle intensifies.
And the most important factor, we talk about kit all the time, we talk about weapons, they're very important, but the most important factor when it comes to this guttural warfare, and it is guttural, is the human factor.
Let's look at the map again, shall we? Because it does feel as if Russia is continuing to push in certain areas, doesn't it? Really over in the east. I mean, you can see all this kind of red intensifying on the borders with Russia. How is the current situation going?
It is. Russia's main effort is in through Severodonetsk. They're trying to close this particular pocket here, encircle the Ukrainian defenders that are in there, and try to capture the rest of the disputed Donbass region. If they manage to do that, they will probably try and sue for peace. However, the secondary Russian effort is to try and stop up in the northeast around Kharkiv, the Ukrainian attacks there, and there's suggestions right up to the Russian border. And then we're seeing indications of successes down in Kherson in the southwest, where the Ukrainians are pushing forward, and the Russians are trying to defend that. And of course, we've got the Black Sea. There's reports today of a Russian tugboat that has just been sunk around Snake Island. It was more than just a tugboat, it was also a resupply vessel that's there. And that was the first reported use of Harpoon anti-ship missiles that have been supplied by the West. So there are real effects happening on the ground.
Just want to talk a little bit about the kind of end goals of this and the way out, if you like. I mean, we're not talking about Kyiv anymore. That's not even marked on the map. And if you remember the early days of the war, it felt like we could be in a situation where it would have fallen. Now it feels, look, you can see the fighting really intensifying in the south, kind of Mariupol obviously falling, and then in the Donbass region as well. Mm-hmm. Can you see a situation where Russia tries to purely take the Donbass, or do you think that actually no territory at all is really up for grabs in this war?
Well, I think Russia is trying hard to take the Donbass. They've said that. They lost Kiev. They lost up around Kharkiv and what they were doing in the northeast. So they've lost two major battles so far. As Admiral Sir Tony Radkin said today, the chief of defence staff in the UK military, the Russians have lost strategically. They're growing the EU and they're growing NATO and they're bringing greater resolve together. Tactically, if they can get the Donbass region, Putin will see that as some form of success. However, the resolve we got out of the European leaders' visits yesterday, saying that they didn't see Russia's ability to hold any Ukrainian territory as being key. And I think President Zelensky will have convinced them of that. That's the key bit here.
Significant.
That's very significant indeed.
It does feel significant. Thank you so much for coming on and telling us a bit of what is really going on in Ukraine. All important stories, so thank you so much.